Hi everyone, good evening. So, in the last class, we studied a brief introduction about the conditional statements, and specific to an if, we have studied a bunch of examples. So, what I want to do right now is I just want to correlate the concept of which we discussed yesterday and a day before yesterday as a first thing. So, method outcome using a return statement and write a if condition for that. That's a small thing which I want to do. On top of that, I just want to explain about a switch case, while loop, do while loop, and a for loop. And in the for loop, there are two types, for loop and as well as a nested for loop. But we are going to study only a for loop as of now. Once we studied about a arrays concept, then we will study about a nested for loop. But now we can consider as a normal for loop itself. These are all the things which we are going to see as part of our today's session. So what I'm going to do right now means let me open up my Eclipse editor. Okay, so let's go back to your Eclipse editor and let me create a new Java class first. So, Krishna, batch 122 Java. So here inside the scripts, let me create a script. Example on return 1. Without a main method I have a created, and in this class I'm just writing down my logic stating that public void login, or directly let's create a sum method. Why we need to create login? Sum int a comma int b, int c equal to a plus b, return a c. Whenever we have a return statement here, that particular method should be changed. Void should be replaced with this particular line. Or additionally, what we can write down the return means, guys, see here, return a plus b. Directly I can print down that information to the console. Okay, cool. Okay, cool. So the next point which we need to consider is, okay, I have created a method, and this method is returning a value which is the sum of those two numbers a and b. And now what I need to do on top of this one is go back to your Eclipse editor, create a new Java class, example on, or calling a method return type. I'm just creating a sample class, and I'm giving main method here. And the only thing what we can do is we can create an object to the class which has a methods. So I'm just creating an object, space obj is equal to new class. I have created that. Now obj dot, the method of which we have is a sum, and I'm passing 10 comma 30 as an arguments to this method. Now whenever we passed arguments to this particular method, if you perform a mouse over on that, it's displaying int as a return type. Directly the method outcome, I'm storing it in a int some value equal to. This is how we did basically in the previous session. As of now, as I know the conditional statements, what I am doing on top of this one is if some value is greater than 50, then system.out.println sum is big. else system.out.println sum is a small value. Okay, that's what I have created here. That's it. I have just written a simple if condition. In the current situation, I'm passing 10 and 30, which is the overall sum value would be a 40, and this 40 is less than 50. Hence, the outcome would be sum is a smaller value will be printed to the console. When I run my script as a Java application, it should print down the information to the console. Let us see here in the console, sum is a smaller. For suppose if I change my A to 100 and B to 30, the sum would be 130, which is greater than 50, and the outcome should print as a sum as a 50. Sum is a big value. That's it. It got a printed to the console too. So one thumb rule that needs to be considered here is, okay, one thumb rule that needs to be considered on top of this particular one is, okay, earlier we printed out the value which comes as an outcome from a method. Now we are using it with the help of conditional statements. Okay, we are using it with the help of a conditional statements. Good. Done the deal. Done up to here. So this is a simple point how you need to consider, guys. Before jumping on with the further concepts, am I clear for you all till now, or any questions for me, guys? Am I clear for you all? You can unmute yourself and you can ask me if you have any questions.
Surinder, I have a doubt.
Yes,
Uh, in the class one, today's session, you have created a,
two
you have
class.
not created any object over like example.
This one.
Yes.
See, the thing is, this is the class which is holding down the information. If you remember the earlier sessions, what we have studied, one class will hold the information. To access this info in another class, we will create an object to the class which is holding the information in the class where we want to use that information. In the
Mm.
current example, example on return one is the class which is holding methods for me, right? Which is holding methods for me. And calling method return type is the class where I want to use those methods. As per the above syntax, then we need to create an object to example on a return class in calling methods class. That's what we did as of now. See here,
Yeah,
this class just holds the information, nothing else. The other class where we are using, I just created an object to the class which has an information, and I'm accessing that information here.
yeah,
Okay.
that I understood. The doubt is in the cloud. The written we are not using over here. That's what.
We are using, see, basically the method outcome. See, this is a return. The return sum A plus B. So here, the return outcome, whatever we are getting from that method is an integer, the sum. I'm storing it in this variable and I'm performing a conditional operation on that particular return value itself. So what we are doing in this particular class, the return outcome we are storing in a variable in the class where we are calling. The return outcome we stored inside a variable, and we are using that variable for comparison. So this sum
Okay.
value itself is a holding. See, the declaration of this sum value, it's a holding down the on a right hand side basically obj dot sum. Obj is pointing to the earlier class. That class we are calling a sum method. So we are calling a sum method present in that examples returns class, and whatever the outcome we are getting from that method, we are storing it in a sum value which is of an integer type, and we are performing the further operations here.
Yeah, I understood. Thank you.
Okay, cool, done the deal. So this is a simple point how you need to deal with it, and this is all about the first thing. Now, let's move on with the switch concept. So what exactly this switch concept is, and how are we going to use this switch concept, and where exactly you want to use this switch. Right, we should know the information. The switch statement is a multi-branch statement. This is a multi-branch statement. Okay, and it will gives you an easy way to pass on multiple checks, okay, on an input basically. Okay, based on the input whatever we have a given, you can place a multiple conditions within this particular switch itself. How we are going to show that, I'll show you with a small example. For suppose, assume that, let me give you a small example guys. So here I have a browser name variable, and this browser name has a Chrome value inside that. If browser name is equal to Chrome, I'm just considering as a small example. If browser name is equal to Chrome, print Chrome browser. Else, if browser name equal to Firefox, print Firefox. Else, if browser name equal to Opera, print Opera. Right? So here what we are doing, we are adding a multiple if blocks to validate the browser. Instead of using these multiple if blocks, I can simply use a switch statement here. So switch browser name. And what is this browser name concept here? In this switch, there is a case, and if that value is a Chrome, then print Chrome. Case Firefox, print Firefox. Case Opera, print Opera. So the only difference between the conditional statement and this switch block out over here is we are passing multiple inputs as a cases, and based on the case the respective operation will be performed. Whereas here you need to write down a multiple if else here, whereas in the switch we are not writing down that much information. We are just performing the case operations. Okay, let me show you a simple example within our Eclipse editor, then you can easily understand this one. Let's go back to an editor. Let me create a new Java class, new example, example switch, and I'm creating with a main method. The same logic I'm considering here, string browser name equal to Chrome. I'm passing my browser name as a Chrome. Whereas here I'm just using switch. On which variable it needs to work? On a browser name, this switch should work. How this should work basically, if the first case is if case followed by, I can use this particular day here directly. If case, this is a Chrome, then Directly, what I can use here, if the value present in this particular one is a Chrome, then system.out.println Chrome browser launched. Just a simple thing I'm specifying. Okay, and maximize the Chrome instance and break this case. I don't want to continue further. Case Firefox. If that a value is a Firefox, then system.out.println Firefox browser launched. Okay, Firefox browser launched, and again break this particular case block. Okay, if we are not adding a break statement, what it will happen means after executing this particular case, it will try to validate the other cases also. But I don't want to do such information. Just once my desired logic got found there, I just want to terminate that information. That's what I'm doing now. So I have already passed my information as a Chrome. Let me try to run my test script and see how exactly this case is working. See here, Chrome browser is launched. For suppose if I pass on my information as a Firefox, then the Firefox information will be printed down to the console. For suppose another thing is we have a passed an Opera. Assume that I passed an Opera browser and there is a no specific case for this Opera. In the switch, there is an another option I can consider. Basically what I can give as part of this switch, at last we can give default system.out.println given day is not mentioned in the case. Okay, I have a given this particular information as well. That's it. Now, when I run this switch block now, what it will happen means, see here, it comes to the last page. As you don't have anything, it comes to the last page. Given day is not there. And another thing here is, assume that we are not giving the break statements. What it will happen? See, for you, you don't know the difference if we are giving a break statement or not. When I run my test script as a Java application by specifying Opera, and if I run my script without the break statement, still I can see the output. Okay, still I can see the output. So what it will happen means, why it is seeing the output means, the reason out over here is it will first check whether it is a Chrome or not. If not, it will go to the next. If not, it will go to the next. If not, it will go to the next. As a execution perspective, you don't find a much difference here, but in a runtime there will be a difference here. Okay, in the runtime there will be a difference here. Okay, so that's the reason definitely whenever you are using a switch statement, it's mandatory for you to add a break statement at the end of the condition. So whenever this logic is executed, just terminate this block. That's it. Okay, just terminate this particular block. That's it. This is the way how exactly we can use a switch statements. And where we are going to use these switch statements, of course, in the real world, we are going to use these switch statements whenever we want to launch a browser, perform certain activities, all these stuff we will be performing using the switch case itself. Okay, cool. Done the deal. And let me do a simple examples on this particular one. See, I have already defined a Chrome, right? Let me try to define the same thing again. Case Chrome system.out.println Chrome value. Okay. See the Chrome we have already defined. I'm trying to define it again, a duplicate value. Whenever I mouse over on that, duplicate a case it is throwing. So it means switch will not allow you to create any duplicate instances inside that. Let me comment this block. Switch will not allow you to define a duplicate value. Okay, this big statement is used specifically Okay, this break statement is used specifically to terminate that particular sequence. See, basically, these are the steps it will execute. At the end, I just want to come out from that. We can use a break statement. And moreover, this break statement is an optional one. Okay, okay, this break statement is an optional one. Basically, it won't proceed further whenever. See, how can I say this one as an example? Means assume that there are 20 cases here, and in a first case itself you identified the information and you have a breakout over there. So what it will do at the runtime, it will go to the first case, and as the desired information is found, it will execute that information. At the end there is a break, it will come out of that particular sequence. If the break is not there, for the remaining 19 also it will go and check whether that information is matching or not. Okay, whenever we use a break, this additional check will not happen. If the break is not there, anyways it will verify all the cases, but it's not going to work on those cases as the condition name doesn't matter for that. Okay, gets done the deal. And of course, there's a default statement. Whatever we have a given is a not mandatory. If you want to execute a default sets of logic, we will be specifying this default statement inside a switch. These are some guidelines that needs to follow. So let me explain these guidelines once again so that you people can remember it in a better way. Switch won't accept duplicate values. Okay, switch won't accept any duplicate values, guys. That's the first thing that needs to consider. And the second thing is break is an optional. If there are 20 cases, for example, and your desired value identified in first case only, then it will execute that logic. If we don't add a break statement, then it will go on with remaining 19 cases and it will try to compare the value. If we add a break statement upon executing the case, it will come out from the switch. It means it's not going to execute the remaining 19 cases in this situation or in this consideration. Okay, and the next one is default is an optional block. If you feel that whenever I'm passing down an information that is not listed down, then we will be specifying this default, else you don't need to specify this default. Okay, cool. So this is all about a switch block here. Am I clear for you guys with respect to this switch block, or is there any questions for you on this switch block? Guys, do let me know if you have any questions on this.
Surinder, one more question in switch block.
Yeah.
If at all in the above example, if you don't mention default switch, I mean default option,
Okay.
then when we run the JavaScript, the both the conditions above are failed. Then what will it print?
See, let me show you that directly. See, I have a given opera and there is a nothing, no cases with that particular value, whatever we are passing, and that too we don't have any default value. When I run my scripts, nothing will happen. See here, it's executed, nothing will happen. Nothing is getting printed to the console. Okay, so nothing will be
It's not
printed.
considering the loop, right? I mean, it's
Yes.
breaking
Yeah, it will
because it.
enter. It will enter. See, basically, the thing is, first of all, see, whenever you give an opera, it will get that opera value and it will come into the switch. It will go to the first case and it will compare. My browser value is opera. What is this value? It is a Chrome. It will not enter this case. And then the next value is, it will go to the next case. It will check my browser value is opera, whether it is matching with this case or not. It's not matching. Again, it will come out as there are no other cases to execute? Nothing it's going to execute. Basically, the conditional statement if else also, for suppose, if you remember the if block of what we have created yesterday, let me compare this one. Int a equal to 10 if a is greater than 10, system.out.println a is big. So here, when this block will execute, whenever this a value is greater than 11, then only the condition present in the if block will be executed. So a kind of a question will rise in your mind. If my a value is not greater than 11, what it will happen? You need to write down explicitly by specifying an else block here. Like you need to call out explicitly else block that system.out.println a is not a big. If you haven't given this else block, it won't know what it needs to do. It will simply verify this condition and nothing will be printed. The same way it's going to execute the switch block, as there are no cases with a given value, it won't execute nothing. But internally, for you the outcome is not printing, but internally Java is trying to execute the switch block, and Java is trying to perform the operation inside the switch block.
Okay.
Okay.
You mean to say the else and the default does the same?
Yes, of course. If nothing is there, else will be, if the condition is not satisfied, the else will be executed on the switch. If there is a nothing, you can use the default as an option to execute that particular value.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Thank you. And Pile and others, am I clear for you till now, or do you have any questions for me on this, guys? Do
I'm
let me
clear.
know if you have any questions so that we can discuss them. Okay. So considering your silence as you are good, okay, then what I'm going to do right now is let us see a looping concept now. So what exactly does loops concept in Java? Why are we using these loops in Java? Okay. So we need to know, right, basically why we need to use uh, why we use either a for loop or a while loop or a do while loop, right? We should know that, right? The purpose of this loop is to perform the repetitive tasks. We are using these loops. If you want to perform one task multiple times, in such cases we will use this loops concept in Java. Either I can use a for loop, I can use a while loop, I can use a do while loop. Any one of these loops, I can use it in order to perform my activity. Immediately, a quick question will rise in our mind. How can I use these loops? Show me a practical example where exactly we can use these loops. Let's go back to our Eclipse editor. And here, what I'm doing means create a new script example on a while loop. I'm creating a main method, hence I'm checking this checkbox as well. And here, assume that there is a requirement for you to print the numbers from 1 to 10. Print the numbers from 1 to 10. There is a loop basically. There is a requirement for you. Then what you will be doing? Uh, you will be just printing down like system.out.println 1, system.out.println 2, 3, 4, like that. You have to write down this information up to 10 different times. Right, you have to use this information for 10 different types. Then only it will be executed. Right, the outcome for that 10 will be printed to the console. So the point out over here is, for suppose in the real world, your requirement is to print 1,000 values. In such situations, do you use the same system dot out dot println for 1,000 times? It's not a better practice for you. It's not a best practice for you to use these many lines, right? Definitely, there should be some logic that you need to follow. Okay, definitely there should be some logic that you need to follow in order to perform this activity, and which comes under this for loop, while loop, and a do while loop. So what is the syntax for this for loop? So here, for initialization, semicolon, condition, semicolon, increment oblique decrement, and internally logic that needs to be executed, and end the loop. So this is the for loop syntax. For initialization, condition, increment, or a decrement. Initialization means just a variable initialization. Okay, just a variable initialization you have to consider. Let me show you the flow chart for this for loop, how the execution will be carried out. So usually, as I have mentioned, the for loop will start with an initialization itself. Assume that this is a start and this is an initialization. And upon that initialization, in the syntax, you are giving a condition. So here, let me add it. This is the condition, whatever we have specified. If the condition is a true, specify some logic. If the condition is a false, specify some other logic. So I'm just using a stop statement here. So this is a start, okay, and this is initialization, and this is a condition, and this is stop block. And here what it will be happening is there is some other block also. So what it's going to do right now, so the execution will start from start block and it will come to the initialization. So here this block, we can treat it as whenever the condition is a true, logic that needs to perform. Okay, logic that needs to be performed will be specified here. So it will come to the for loop first and then it will initialize it. And it will go to the condition. If the condition is true, it will perform this particular logic. Okay, it will perform this particular logic, and again there is an increment or a decrement operation. Even that logic will be carried out, and again it will be redirected to the same. Okay, it will be redirected to the same condition. It will verify the condition. If the condition is a true, it will execute this block. If the condition is a false, it will stop the loop. Or I can I can add a one more block here stating that if the condition is true, if the condition is true, then here it will execute the desired logic. Upon executing the logic here, it will perform either increment or the decrement operation, and then it will go to the loop. See here, it will come in this way. It will go from logic to this one. So this is a cyclic process, guys. If you clearly observe, this is a cyclic process. So initially it will start, it will come to an initialization, it will verify the condition. Whenever the condition is true, it will validate the logic, and after validating the logic, it will increment it, followed by an incrementation. Again, it will go to the condition. This set will rotate until the condition will fail. Whenever the condition will fail, it will switch to an else block. Okay, cool. Done the deal. So let me copy this screenshot and let me update this screenshot in our running notes. Okay, so that you people can have a better idea on this particular one. Cool. This is an overview on a for loop concept, a high level overview on a for loop concept, guys.